Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Penfield Zoning Board of Appeals. Tonight's meeting is going to take place in two parts. The first part will be the public hearings. We'll ask the applicant to come up to the podium, give us his name and address, and then explain to the board why the relief requested should be granted. Once the applicant is done with the presentation, I'm sure board members will have some questions, and then we'll ask anyone in the audience that cares to speak about the application to come up to the podium, give name and address, and go ahead and speak his mind about the application. After the public hearings are adjourned, we'll take a brief recess. We will reconvene then in the back of the room to deliberate on tonight's applications and tend to any unfinished business the board may have. Members of the public are certainly welcome at both parts of the meeting, although the second part, the deliberations, that is a time generally reserved for conversation amongst board members with staff, and sometimes with council. Relatively short agenda tonight, so again, you're all welcome to stay. If for whatever reason you want to leave or you must leave, you can call either Carol or Harold or anyone, in fact, in the zoning department tomorrow to find out what action, if any, the board took on a particular item. I point out every month that it is the town's practice and policy to notify neighbors that live in the area of an application that the application is on the agenda and is going to be heard, and the town does that via postcard. The town does that by having people put up the signs in their yards, internet, and public postings as well. And the town does that so that people are more fully informed of their right to come in and speak about an application. I think we all agree that that's a good practice. I guess with that, I'd ask everyone to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I should say Happy New Year to everybody. And Harold, may we have the first application, please?
Application number 1, James Bonsignore, Spindelman, Brovitz, and Goldman, 295 Woodcliff Drive, Fairport, New York, 14450. On behalf of Robert and Mary Wynne, request an interpretation of the provisions of the Customary Home Occupation definition under Article 2-2-2 of the Code to allow a commercial business from a single-family residentially zoned property and an area variance from Article 3-3-35-D-2 and Article 3-3-37-A of the Code to allow a shed larger than permitted and with less setback at 2565 Browncroft Blvd. The property is owned by Robert and Mary Wynne and is zoned R-1-20. This is SBL number 123.08-1-31. This is application number 12Z-0052.
Good evening. Hi.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we start, if it's okay with you, with you letting us know what changes you've made since the last time you were in front of the board, which I think was in the November meeting.
For the shed?
Well, go ahead.
We really didn't have much discussion or presentation on the shed.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the shed. I'm talking about home occupation. Because I know members of the staff have come out and they've seen some changes you've made. So I just sort of want to, if you could recite those.
Well, we converted the space in the apartment back to an apartment, and we sold all the furniture that we had been storing in there. So anyone who had, and I explained to Harold Morehouse at the time that he came, we were having a recall, and people were working with me there to deal with the recall, which is over. It's been over for months and months and months, so we weren't using the space for that. But we are not using this space we're using it as an apartment now. We have 2 bedrooms and a living room and a kitchen and a dining area. Harold?
Okay. I haven't been out there. It was Andy Sevegas and Jim
Andy
Costello.
Sevegas, hi, pardon me, excuse me, Harold.
Right.
Andy Sevegas and Jim
Costello.
Right, they came out.
That's okay.
They saw it, they witnessed it?
Yep. They did, and that's all been conveyed to me by them. I just wanted to make sure that what you were saying was consistent with what they saw, and it certainly is. I guess I would ask you at this point if you believe you have a full understanding of the requirements of that statute.
I believe I do.
Okay, and you certainly have a right to run a business out of your home if you do so in compliance with the statute. No one's ever really said otherwise. What I would ask you to do is just give us what you've just said, just give us a written statement that Pete Weishauer, Mr. Weishauer can prepare. We have no reason to believe at this point that there's any violation of the code, which is good. And we'll ask Pete to prepare that statement for your signature and get it in for us by the next meeting if we could,
Sure.
which is probably more than a month away at this point because we're having an early meeting this month.
And in the statement, you'd like me to state that we have completely furnished the apartment as an
Yeah.
apartment.
It doesn't have to be anything lengthy, but yes, maybe you touch on the changes you've made. Again, your understanding of the statute, that you're conducting whatever business wholly within the statute, and that you intend to comply in the future.
Okay,
Okay?
no problem.
Anything else on that point?
Well, I have a question on all the businesses. What's happened to them? Are you, and the people you were
Ms.
training?
Mulcahy, I've already told you, and I have spent a huge amount of time
No, I wonder
researching.
from last meeting,
I still own real estate in Vermont. I still own Mesa Butte. I have owned it since 1986. I have owned real estate in Vermont since 1986. The property is Vermont. Mesa Butte is Vermont LLC.
I don't care about Vermont. I
Well-
care about all the people who were in and out of there, the people
They're
you were
my
training and
friends.
things.
But we are opening a store in, because our business has grown, and I already told you folks, we have 66 trainers across New York State that are independent contractors. We are actually opening a retail storefront to do training in Rochester.
Okay,
Because
that's what
our
I want to
business
know,
has
where
grown
the
so much.
training is going to be.
Well, they're usually in people's offices. Normally, people who have businesses that receive training and have an AED have their training in their offices. I would assume that this town received its training in this location. We normally go to their offices. Our client is government. Our biggest client is state government. And when you go to the Attorney General's office, you train them there. When you go to OGS, you train them there. That is why I have 66 trainers across New York State.
Okay. So and absolutely, Mr. Costello and Mr. Sevegas from the town went out and saw the changes that you related, and that's good. Mr. Weishauer will prepare the statement, get it to you for your review and signature, and so for that, on that matter, we'll, I'm sure, table this until our next meeting to take care of that. The shed, and by the way, before you get into the shed, we understand that there was you had hoped that there was going to be a real estate transaction that could occur that would, in essence, resolve this. For whatever reason, that didn't happen. So I guess what I would ask you to do, if it's okay, is to explain why you need the shed, why it's in that location, and what you're using it for, that sort of thing.
Well, the shed is in that location. Unlike some other sheds in Penfield, like for instance, if you drive down Qualtrough Road, there's a very large shed outside of a fence with a door facing the street, almost on the sidewalk. It's not like that. We have the shed hidden behind a fence, obscured from the street, private, and you're welcome to come over and look in the shed. It's full of fertilizer. We have 6 vehicles. We buy Blizzak tires for our cars for the winter. All of the summer tires are in the car. My son mows our lawn. There's a push mower in there. There's a hedge trimmer in there. That's why we need a shed.
Okay. So I assume since you've related all the stuff that's in the shed, you don't have anywhere else to put it.
Right. We have 10 bikes. We have them hanging. It's like we're tapped out. We have a 3-car garage that it's door to door when you put the cars in the garage. You know, there was no place for anything else.
Okay. So why that particular location for the shed? As opposed to someplace else on the property?
Well, I think it would be extremely unattractive if we put it in the front lawn. Because
Okay.
we have no place in the backyard for it.
All right.
The side yard is only 9.5 feet wide. So if we put a 10-foot shed in a 9.5-foot yard, it would be
Wouldn't
touching the
fit.
house.
Okay. Now, given the location of the shed now, there are 2 setback violations, is that correct?
Yes, one is not something I could control, and if the board recalls, the neighbors and I came to the board and we sought permission for the transfer of property. I complied with all of the requirements of the owner of the property. I went to the 30 houses in their subdivision and obtained notarized signatures that they did not disagree with them putting a 6-foot fence around their property and for the transfer of land. I had 2 surveys done at the cost of over $2,400, and I have done every single thing I needed to do. We signed, all the members involved signed the survey, the onion skin piece of the survey, and that's where it stopped.
Okay.
I did everything I can possibly do on my end.
Right, understood. Okay, now, can you describe the fence that you built around the shed?
Yes, it's made by a company called Simtech out of Utah. It has a lifetime warranty. It looks like fieldstone. It's finished on both sides. It's 6 feet tall. It slides into a rail system. It can withstand 120-mile-per-hour ball. If graffiti is sprayed on it, you just clean it with that orange cleaner. I mean, it's a very good product, and it's beautiful. We got lots of people that come by and ask where we got it from.
Okay. Harold, do you look like you want to chime in with something? No?
I think it's architectural quality fencing.
Okay. I didn't mean on that point, but any point you wanted to. You just look like you...
There's no other fence that would be nicer than it. It's a very high-quality fence.
Okay.
Beautiful. And it replaced a low 4-foot, older chain link fence, which was not attractive compared to this.
Okay. Why did you put a fence around the shed to begin with?
Well, we didn't initially put a fence around the shed. It's just that we had 6 extra panels.
I see. Okay.
And it seemed like it would be better to put it in front of the shed because, I mean, the shed was up when we put the panels up.
Yeah.
And then we have a space between the shed and the panels where we have the leftover siding from our house, which is about 3 boxes.
Okay. Carol or Joe, any questions?
You're right. Your situation is a little unique because most people don't have sheds in the front yard on kind of a major highway. But you've explained why you had to put it there, okay, which is totally understandable. The only thing that I would say is I do live in the area and we go by it a lot, and I've had people comment to me about the fence in the front yard. You know what I'm saying? On this side of this shed. Now, it sounds goofy, but possibly you maybe could have done it differently with buffering, but now it seems like the fence is a little bit of an eyesore to some people. Those are the complaints that I've had. Would you be willing to put some kind of buffering in front of that fence, even if it's bushes or a little bit of something?
I don't know if you
know what I mean?
noticed.
So it just breaks it up just a little bit.
Well, there are dead trees now, but we did
Yeah,
purchase.
that's
This
the
is our
point, too.
second round of trees that died. You know,
Yeah,
there's a blight that occurred in those trees, and
Okay.
all the bushes that we bought died.
Okay,
So-
but I'm talking about just in front of that fence on the Browncroft side, or the Atlantic Avenue, changes from Browncroft to Atlantic there. On the Atlantic side of the fence, okay, that protects your shed,
Mm-hmm.
could you put some kind of bushes or arborvitaes or greens or
Possibly.
something that could just block it a little? And then I think it would be absolutely, positively perfect.
Well, you know, when I walk down Browncroft Blvd, there is a lot that has a fence probably 4 feet from the sidewalk, and they have no bushes on them, and it is the entire lot. So I'm
But
not
it's
sure
also
who.
on the side of their lot. It doesn't
But
run
it
in
is the front of the
their
street.
house.
It is
Okay.
on Browncroft Boulevard, just like our house is. I mean, I am not going to make a commitment to you that we're going to invest in putting
Well-
shrubs there when we need a driveway. We really need a driveway.
Well,
We have a
then
stone
maybe I won't
driveway,
make a
it's
commitment
6,000
to you
square
to
feet.
approve where the shed is and how it is. I mean, I'm just asking you to just maybe be a little sensitive about the area too. And what would it take, 3, 4 bushes? I mean, that can't be, you're talking about driveway, you told us that's the most expensive fence you could possibly buy, the most beautiful fence. And are you It seems like you give me a hard time about a few bushes that may cost you
No, I'm not saying
$4.59
that,
in
Joe.
front of the fence. I'm just telling you the problems that I
Yeah.
hear.
Okay.
And you tell me what you want to do, then this board will make its decision on whether we allow it to stay there or move it.
Okay.
Totally up to you. So now,
Well,
I ask you again, are you open to any kind of buffering in front of that fence?
I have no problem with that. My question to you would be is, even if you asked me to move the shed, the fence would still be there. So,
Okay.
I mean, I
But
don't
then
want
I
this
couldn't
to
do anything
be,
about it, huh?
I don't want to be intimidated into doing this, and I
I'm not
mean, I'd be
intimidating
happy.
you. We're
Well, I don't
trying
want to
to-
be threatened
Look at-
that I have to put shrubs in front of my fence, or you're not going to approve my shed. I am telling you that I can't make a commitment to that right now. I don't even remember what the dirt looks like in front of it. I don't remember if the tree is overhanging it. I don't know, if you've got a 6-foot fence, what kind of shrubs I need to put in front of it, so it's going to cover up 6 panels of a 6-foot fence. My husband put a huge mound there, and our anticipation was that we would have trees that would grow 15 feet tall, so we would buffer the winds. I mean, I don't even remember what it looks like there, and I don't want to make a commitment to you that I'm going to do something that I cannot follow through. We would definitely have improved the property and continue to do landscaping as we can afford it, and we certainly want it to look beautiful from the street. So I will do everything I can to make it look beautiful.
Let me pipe in here for a minute, just so you understand that this isn't anything personal or anything directed at you. Oftentimes, we have citizens, applicants, come in and ask for setback variances, like you are now. And one of the factors that we have to consider is this, I'll read it verbatim, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of an area variance. So, quite often, people come in, for instance, and say, I want to put my shed closer to the line. We want to build a bigger kitchen. So we're going to have an addition. That's coming closer to the line. And the neighbor, they're good neighbors, but they say, geez, that building's coming a little closer to our property. How about if we have some vegetative buffering? That happens probably every month at this board, sometimes more than once. So Joe's question is certainly legitimate, because this is a factor the law requires us to consider. So if we don't ask that question or make that consideration, frankly, people would think we're not doing our job, and they'd be right. So I understand you, given the fact that you've had some trees there, you've wanted to put them there for a reason, and they've died for whatever reason, saying that you can't commit. It sounds like you can't commit to a result, but if I'm hearing you right, you're willing to commit to some kind of effort.
Definitely. I mean,
Unfortunately, it's
love
January.
Right.
And,
There's a lot of
we
snow
don't, we're not looking, we don't want you to go out and spend $1 million. We never would ask anyone to do that. But we have had people say that they believe, and it's a matter of opinion, but they believe the fence is unsightly as you drive by. It's a nice-looking fence, but it is a fence. So would they rather see a row of bushes? I suppose people may. But I don't, given the history of the vegetation there, maybe we're not at the point where we can say, hey, a $300 or $400 investment is something that's an expert, a landscaper will say is going to work. I mean, I don't know. And I wouldn't, frankly, feel right one way or another without giving you an opportunity to at least be able to test that out if we are going to condition an approval upon some sort of vegetative buffering. And that's an if.
Well, the thing is I'm not coming for a variance on the fence.
No, you're not.
And the fence, if you look up pictures of what the house used to look like, there used to be panels in front of where our entrance is for the apartment. 10 feet away from the door, there was a whole row of fence.
And how do you think that looked?
Well, it's hard to say because the house was quite different, but the point is that I think, I mean, I'll do everything I can to make it look as attractive as possible. We have really made an effort to make the property look very attractive.
No doubt about it.
You see that from the gardens.
No doubt about it.
We do everything we can to garden.
And I guess what I'm suggesting is to give you an opportunity, table this, it's January.
Well,
So,
should
you know,
table it till
and
September.
over another tabling, we're not going to say take the shed down, but to give you that opportunity to explore exactly what you say you are willing to do, and that is everything you can. Now, if you go to a landscaper and a landscaper says, this plan won't work, that plan won't work, this one will, but it's going to cost $15,000, that's information that we should have when we're making our decision as to whether we're going to condition an approval to, with vegetation. So I'm certainly willing to vote to table this to give you a chance to do that, because obviously this is the first time you're hearing this.
You're going to have to table it till September, though, because, I mean, those trees just died. We put them in June.
Well, I wouldn't say what I would be looking for is something from somebody that's in the business.
Well,
They could
I
say,
already have
"Here's-"
that. I mean, I've had 2 landscape architects. Oak leaf hydrangea would be good under those trees. It's just that oak leaf hydrangea grows 2-3 feet tall, and it gets really bushy. And personally, I find it to be extremely unattractive. Because of that beech tree, there's not a lot you can grow under there because you get so much shade. And I really don't want to cut the tree down. I think the tree's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I don't know if there are vines you can put up there that would, you know, like a honeysuckle vine, or, you know, there's certain kinds of vines. I'm not sure. The problem you get into with a lot of these oak leaf hydrangea, honeysuckle vines, any of these plants, in the fall you cut them down and there's nothing there, so you have the same look we have right now. It's a very difficult spot. It's extremely windy. You've got western exposure. You've got terrible sun. You've got pollution. We've had 2 sets of trees growing in that berm. It's not a nice place to grow plants. So, I mean, I will do my best. We want it to look nice there.
Yeah,
We want it to be beautiful. It's just a nasty sight.
okay.
So that's why I'm saying I don't know if I can make a commitment. I will do the best I can. We have been working with Wayside on this. You know, they've been out. We've worked with this guy named TK. He did a beautiful job in the backyard. It's gorgeous. We have sun. You know, we don't have any winds.
Well, again, I guess I'd suggest that you speak with TK or whomever you like, and maybe put together a letter or something for us saying, here's what's possible, here's what we think may work, but we're not going to be able to do it till May, whatever the case may be.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions on the
I do.
shed?
No,
recall-
go ahead. I'm sorry. Just a comment. Look, this, like Danny says, this is not personal. Almost every month we have things that we want buffered, or we want this or that to happen. The situation here was, you thought that a fence was what would satisfy us, okay? And possibly buffering could have satisfied us rather than a fence. I mean, you went through a little bit more of an expense, so we understand your effort. All right, do you follow what I'm saying? I'm understanding your effort on how you tried to buffer, if we use the word, the shed. But it maybe looks a little different. So I accept Danny's, what he said, totally. Go to a landscaper, see what it would cost, see what they think it would be. It's just to make everybody happy. Then it would be a little buffered, you'd have the fence for the wind, and that goes on, okay? I wasn't trying to be rude to you, but on the same token, like he says, I have to go by this criteria. And if people do come in there and refuse to do the criteria, they go, no, I don't want it closer to my house because it looks terrible. We had one, and the lady said, I want it closer to the neighbor's house because closer to mine looks terrible. And I go, well, gee, do you think she likes it any more than you? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So I don't think that was you, but at least we've come to a resolve where you're going to make an effort, find out what can be done, what could live there, what could make it look better, send it to our board, and we'll table this, and then we'll make our decision, okay?
Now, my question's on the fence. You originally came in here because the neighbor actually came in, right? And you were going to buy the property to put up the fence?
We did everything we were supposed to do.
But
did
it
everything.
ended up, you couldn't buy the property?
No, we did everything we were supposed to do. We put the fence up on their property. We put the fence on their property line. We went to 30 of the neighbors in their subdivision.
Yeah, I heard you say that.
I did everything. The only thing that has not been done is the transfer of title, which he has to take to his mortgage company, which he has not done. For whatever reason, he can't do that.
So really, the fence is his if he wanted to make a point of it, because it's on his property line.
Well, I think there's a couple issues. I mean, I'm not going to act as a lawyer. I'm not going to answer that question.
Well, it's either on your property or it's not.
Well, I don't know what fence we're talking about. Are we talking about
I'm
the
talking
fence
about
that
the nice-looking one that goes the length of the side that the neighbor came in for.
I'm not going to answer that question. I think.
Well, if you don't know the answer, you don't know the
I don't know the answer to
answer.
that question. I'm sorry.
So you don't know if it's on your property or his? That was the question. Right?
You have a map there, Harold?
I've got the survey, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
if he had done the transfer, which he agreed to do in a hearing, then it would be our property. But because, for some reason, he has not done the transfer, which probably has to do with the mortgage company requiring him to refinance the property again, because the property has changed, and for whatever reason, expenses, personal financial situation, whatever reason, they cannot go back and do that. That is why the transfer hasn't taken place.
Okay.
But I
So
would
the real estate transaction has not been consummated, but that was through no fault of yours.
Correct.
Okay. Harold, can you tell from that survey that if the transaction, the real estate transaction had gone through, would there be a need for the variance?
For the shed?
Yes.
Yes.
There would.
Yeah.
And
Because it would eliminate the variance
One of them.
request to
The back.
the west, which is the side property line,
but not at the front.
but not the front going towards Browncroft. And then there's a size issue relative to how large of a structure they put up, which amounted to, I think it was 10 to 15 square feet larger than what was allowed, so.
Right.
But,
She's
yeah,
testified as to all the things that they have in there.
right.
Yeah, we measured wrong. We measured from, I don't know. We measured wrong. My husband measured wrong. The shed guy measured wrong. We all thought we were right. You know, we had the string out. We had the tape out. We just measured from the wrong location.
Yeah, I think you were probably measuring from the
Five-
sidewalk.
Yeah, we
versus-
measured 5 feet. We're 5 feet off.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Nope.
Okay. Any other comments on either the home occupation or the shed?
No.
All right. Anybody in the audience care to speak about this? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very
I'm
much.
certainly going to make a motion to table both matters, and I think we've gone through the reasons why.
Okay. So
Any questions, obviously,
do you want to
call
table it to say September
The home occupation is going to be tabled for that,
for the letter?
for the statement. The shed will be tabled for 1 month for you, to give you an opportunity to speak with somebody. If a landscape person, let me just give you an example. If a landscape person comes in and says, here's what, in my professional landscape opinion, I think can be done. 4 trees on a little berm, they're gonna live, here's why they're gonna live, and it's gonna cost $500. Okay? That seems reasonable to me. If a landscape person comes in and says, nothing will work that's cheaper than $10,000. That's, as I said before, information that we should have in deciding whether or not we are going to insist upon vegetative buffering. So you got 6 weeks, talk with TK or whomever.
But I already have that. It's oak leaf hydrangea, and it gets cut down in the fall, and it grows to about this tall.
I guess I'd like to hear, 'cause since you've said, but that comes down in the fall.
Right.
Leaving the fence.
Correct.
Which, obviously, we would like to see if there's no possibility for some sort of evergreen or something along those lines that could be there. Now, if TK or whomever says can't be done at a reasonable cost, okay. But let's have that from somebody that's in the business. A letter, phone call, talk to Harold, whatever the case may be.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
If we put those, like those Italian see, the thing is they grow like 60 feet tall, those arborvitaes. It's like there's not much you can do in the small amount of dirt that we have. I mean, I'll work on it. It's a tough situation. It's a nasty location.
Understand. And as I said, if you get somebody that says it can't be done within reason, then we'll be armed with that information. And do we have consultants here that at town?
It's the guy that did your landscaping that we had do our drawings.
Juretsky?
Zaretsky, yeah, Bruce Zaretsky.
Well, okay, good.
So
Somebody that the town's familiar with his work.
right, he's excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Application number 2, Donald McClellan-Juliarose Properties, LLC, 2480 Browncroft Boulevard, Rochester, New York, 14625. Requests a special permit for signage under Article 7-7-3 from Article VII-7-12-B, Article VII-7-12-C, and Article VII-7-12-D to allow a greater freestanding signage, 2 freestanding signs, and a setback less than 20 feet from the right-of-way of Browncroft Boulevard at 2480 Browncroft Boulevard. The property is owned by Juliarose Properties, LLC. It is zoned LB. This is SBL number 123.07-1-21./2480. This is application number 12Z-0062.
Hello again.
Hello again. How are we doing?
Good.
Happy
You can
New
give
Year.
us again your name and address and,
Yep, my name's Don McClellan with Juliarose Properties, 2480 Browncroft Boulevard. And I brought with me Dale Trott with the DGM agency, also of 2480 Browncroft Boulevard. Came and spoke with you, I think it was in November, about maybe something that's a little more broader than this project, a bigger sign that we were looking at for some future use. We scaled back what we're looking to do. Basically, currently we have a dentist's office and an insurance agency, and both have different contrasting signs. What Dale would like to do is he'd like to have his own freestanding sign out front, which he's got. You wanted more broad detail of what we really want to do with the lighting and everything, so that's why I brought Dale tonight.
Good move.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Now, on this DG&M sign, is the dentist going to be on that sign too? Is that the number 2 here? Or number 1 or
Well,
1 or 2?
initially, she had come before the board here about 2 years ago on her own, at her own expense, and had her own sign done and was approved. Dale is talking with her about possibly doing that, but presently, we're not at a meeting of the minds with the style that they want. So what we're asking for now is to keep her existing sign, hoping that maybe she'll come on board, but in the meantime, Dale can have what he needs for his business, to promote his business.
Problem is, you can only have 1 freestanding sign.
Correct, and that's why we're here, as we're asking for 2.
Okay, so you changed it from the pole sign, right?
Well, he's still going to have he can talk more about the sign than I can, but we're looking for 1 sign there's still that setback issue, okay? And I'm working with the state DOT to buy back part of the crown that they took for the road for expansion of the 4-lane highway. But Dale would be able to talk to you more about the specifics of the sign.
Okay.
Well, there was 1 freestanding sign initially, but then what I did is I said I'd be willing to, at our cost, to put up a sign that would allow for, if there were other tenants in the building at some point in time, to be able to be added to the sign, and that's the design that you have in front of you right now. So if there were other tenants that came to the building, it wouldn't create any need for additional signage because they could be added to the existing sign that we're going to put up. And we've even, if there are any new tenants and that came in that had a sign, we'd even agree to do it at our cost so that it would eliminate any cost for them to do it, so that we would be able to have a sign that promotes our business much the same way as the similar signs in the areas such as the Allstate agency across the street and Mileage Masters next door and so forth.
Okay, now there are 2 CPAs in the building, right?
Correct.
Have you discussed with them if they want to be on the sign?
Nate, we haven't really discussed it. They just moved in.
Right. They not at this time. I think they moved in
They just moved in last
a couple
month.
of weeks. Yeah.
Not even a month.
Right.
Okay, and then my question again, are you going to take down the pole sign? Or you no longer want the pole sign?
The dentist pole sign?
No, this sign that you sent us in November.
That's correct. No, I adjusted from post to,
To this,
that's correct.
sort of
To
a
the-
directory kind of sign.
Correct.
Okay, and is this sign the same size as the other sign was going to be?
Yes, it is. It fits
20
within
square
the.
feet?
Yes, it is. It fits
5 by
within
4?
the, it fits within the guidelines of the town.
Okay. And will this be a two-sided sign?
Yes, it is. It's a double-sided 4x5.
Okay, so it would say service is our policy, and you're taking off that insurance is our business, service is our policy?
That is on, no, that's on the sign. That's basically that's kind
But
of
I
our
mean,
treatment.
you're not having the two separate signs like you sent in originally?
Oh, no, those,
The both sides are gonna
those
be
were
the
just,
same.
yeah,
They're
those were just
samples.
samples.
They're templates.
Yeah, those were templates. So when that came in, actually, that was just part of the attachment, and it really wasn't meant for, that was part of my decision process as to which one I would choose.
Okay, so all we're asking for then now is this directory sign that meets our sign qualifications.
That's correct.
Okay, but you want to be closer to the road. Is this what we're,
Correct.
Right. The setback puts it into the parking lot.
okay. Does it sound like the dentist would be willing to go on this sign?
I would have to talk to Dr. Harrison again. I think possibly one holdback may be possible cost, and again, maybe if it doesn't cost her anything, there, she may consider it.
Right.
Yeah, because her sign looks like it's going to be due to be replaced soon or something. It's not the greatest looking sign. This is a much better looking sign.
We didn't put it there.
She didn't mind being on it.
Right, I think that sign predated
Right.
her because
The former
Dr.
dentist is
Bain-
gone,
Yeah,
so.
Dr. Bain, I think initially, he was on the sign too, wasn't
Right,
he?
yep.
Okay, and what is the setback for this sign going to be?
That setback probably is somewhere around 12, 14 feet.
I'm going to disagree with that.
What is it?
Basically.
I thought it was from the street. I may be measuring.
No,
From the-
it's
From the
it's not
right-of-way.
from the
Right-of-way.
street, It's from the right-of-way. and
Okay.
It's kind of difficult because, as
You
Don
you
sort
guys
of-
have a map? Do you have a map with you?
Here, I'll take the small one.
Oh, yeah,
But it's-
didn't bring it with me. Okay.
It's kind of difficult to determine exactly in the field where that property line is, because I think Don sort of eloquently referred to it as a belly in the right-of-way boundary.
It's a
bow, right, it's kind of unique. It sort of goes off on a tangent
Right.
towards your building
Right.
and away from the physical road.
Right, and I'm
And-
going to be purchasing that from the state. We just have to get some other logistics
I
taken care
understand,
of.
but right
so.
now, they're looking at a property line that sort of transects that green space you have, that lawn area.
Right.
And I'm trying to extrapolate it out from the image that you're provided here, which I'm not going to say is any degree of accuracy, because I don't think that's what the sign company's intent was to do.
No.
But when I'm looking at it, and based upon my scaling and using the sidewalk as a reference, I think the signs, the way you're showing here is going to be in the right-of-way right now, as the mapping describes. That's what I'm looking at.
I think it's just past the
Part of it.
right away.
Part of
Maybe
it.
just partially, but it's.
Part of it. Because when I'm and it's kind of hard to
It's in the
determine
crown,
because
it's in the crown.
I don't know how far down this run of asphalt here, because when you scale over here, the distance from the corner of the asphalt to the property line.
It's in the crown right
is probably 3 feet, but when you go down towards the end of the asphalt area, it's upwards of 8 feet. So you're gaining as you're going further east down
Right.
Browncroft in width and property, and the state's losing property out there.
Right,
And that's where I'm having trouble trying to determine where you are in that run.
right.
But
I mean,
my gut feeling is, if you were to go out there and find pins or have a survey put some stakes out there, the sign is going to be in the right-of-way.
Right.
At least partially, not entirely, but partially in the right-of-way.
Right. Well, I believe you're correct. I don't believe the sign company was.
That's not.
They were
putting the sign
shotgunning
in
where it
the-
was
That's
going
right,
to
that's
go.
not their intent.
Right.
I think based upon the dimensions of the sign, if you hugged it right to the parking lot, you could fit it on the property, and then subsequently have a zero property line setback. it's going to be that close, because depending on where you take your measurement, the way that map shows the property line getting closer to the parking lot, you've got as little as 3 feet and as much as 8 feet down there.
And we can't really grant him permission to put it in the right of way.
Oh, absolutely not.
No.
That's what I mean, so
Yeah.
if we okayed this sign and he put it up in the right of way, he can take, the state will come and tell him to take it down. Do you understand our problem with you?
No, I
We're
mean-
trying to make sure
Right.
Right,
that we
no,
don't say, yeah, go ahead, and then you put up this beautiful sign and the
Right.
state goes, gee, you're kind of,
No, with that knowledge, we would ensure that the sign is put in the appropriate, position so that,
Right.
I don't want to expend, $8,000 on a sign and have the state tell me to come and take it
we
out.
don't want you to do that.
That's bad business.
So we would spend the money up front, make sure it's surveyed appropriately, and the sign is placed in the appropriate position. That would be, if the approval is granted for the setback and the variance that we're requesting.
Now, what about lighting?
It is a lighted sign, but there's power there, and it would not be lit 24 hours or anything like that.
When would it be lit?
It would be lit, during the winter hours, we would like it to be lit during the winter, we'd like it to be lit from the time we were basically, 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. Because we very seldom have any clients after that. And then in the summertime, it's not an issue, because during daylight savings, there's plenty of daylight.
Okay. There's another freestanding sign on the property over to the right leading into your,
It's more of a directional sign to tell you which way to go, because there's other tenants in the building. And it just, right now, he has his sign on there that says, hey, go this way for DGM agency.
yeah, it says DD&M.
Right,
Insurance
right.
Agency.
But it's more of a directional sign than a advertising or a road sign. You
And
can't,
they're also- because
you can't see it from the road.
Otherwise, people have a tendency, and they still do until we put that in, they go in through the dentist area instead of coming through the main foyer there,
his front
because
door,
there's
yeah.
2 entrances. When you walk up to the building, you've got the entrance going into the dentist, and that another wing of the building, or you have somehow it tells them which way to go to come into our area of the building.
Okay. And are there any signs in the back where you go around to the handicapped entrance?
No,
And are there going to be any?
there's no plan for one.
Okay. Okay, and these are the colors and everything? Nothing will be changed from the picture that you've shown here?
No, those are basically the agency colors.
Plus, it matches the exterior of the building as well, so.
Can I ask a question?
When you talked to the dentist, did she give you any indication? Because you can't have 2 freestanding signs there, and then with your sign, there's really 3 freestanding signs. So, it would be really advantageous if she would agree to be on this, which is more of a directory sign.
We're hoping that she will agree. We can't speak for her, but I'm assuming, we're trying to get her to, it's cost, so,
Well, he said he would let her be on free.
well, like I said, I don't want to speak for anybody.
I mean, there's really, basically all I'm paying for is basically her lettering, if she would agree, because the base of the sign is basically there. So all we're paying, because we're paying to put the sign in, we're paying for everything else. So basically, it's just a matter of, in that 44-inch by 9 3/4 is paying for her lettering, which we're willing to do for her.
How much space is there in that building for other tenants?
It's a total of 16,000 square
No,
feet.
I mean, as opposed to how many tenants are in there now?
Have 4 tenants now. There's still about 8,000 square foot available.
So you could-
So if they moved in, they probably would want a sign too.
They may, I can't speak for them. I don't, they're fictitious right now in my mind. So we're here for this. So I'm more concerned about Dale's needs. Cross that bridge when we come, but there's probably plenty of room where, for the other tenant number 2 sign on there for what they need.
Well, if you got more tenants, and there's already 4, the DG&M is quite large. It's over half, maybe 3/4 of the space on the sign, the way it looks. Would you be willing to make your DG&M sign smaller, so there would be room for another tenant?
Well, he's scratching the check, so,
I mean, you know,
I know,
I'm
but
not
see,
gonna
we
say- I
can't-
would, I mean, I would consider, we would have to give up about 3, you know, it's roughly about 3 more feet, I guess, on the sign.
it's not something, nothing
I mean,
we're going to commit to
we're-
now. I mean, we don't have anybody,
If,
so.
you know, I get, you know, I would, I'm not going to say I wouldn't, I definitely consider it because I want the sign, so I mean,
really-
but right now, we're about,
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, it
we're-
is a landlord.
This is kind of an insane situation.
Right.
You own the building, right? You rent it out. You're just one tenant. You're
Right.
going to put this big sign up, and you're going to put space for 2 more. You already said you have 4 tenants.
Right, but he's
Okay,
the
now
most
let me
significant
finish.
tenant.
Okay, so you already have 4 tenants. One has their own sign. Here's the other 3, hopefully, okay? And you want 2 signs. Which 2 signs do you want? Where's the location of the, you're asking for 2 freestanding signs.
Well, we have the one directional sign that you consider freestanding a sign, where it's more of a
You
directional
mean the
sign.
one next to the building, next to
Correct.
his entrance, the great
Right,
big one?
right.
Okay?
Initially, when I came in, the dentist was apprehensive about moving her sign.
Yeah.
We've been talking to her since. She's willing to possibly come on board with this sign. We're here because it doesn't meet the setback criteria. As long as we can get her to come on board, I'm sure we can, we'll be in good shape. It's what you consider
Well-
the other sign, is that
Well,
considered?
that goes to Carol's point.
Right.
How are you going to be in good shape?
Well-
Let me just point out what I'm saying. You have DGM in great big letters. You have 2 other tenants, you said, that probably would like to go on this sign, correct? And now you have the dentist. So you got another tenant that's going to, and she's going to take a little square? She's gonna
No, there's some insignificant or smaller tenants. Dale's the major tenant of the property. He's put a big investment. He's there. He's probably going to take on some more space. He's going to be the prime tenant at the space. The dentist will be the number 2 space. There are some CPAs. They may not. They're not a small firm.
But you're going to have what you have.
Right.
So that's what I meant before when I said it's a landlord issue. For prospective tenants, they're going to come in, before they sign a lease, they're going to know what's available.
Right.
Or they're going to know that they're going to have to come back to this board and ask for more.
That's correct.
And we're obviously
Right.
struggling to say
We're
the
lucky.
least
We're
with
happy
the
to be.
current situation.
We're happy to be here with this. So.
But that's okay. So, I mean,
right.
we get it.
You
Now,
know-
something that doesn't concern me, but it sort of piques my interest, is you saying she's going to come on board. You think she's going to come on board with this sign?
I believe she will. Dale's been talking to her.
If the answer is that she will, it makes your application a lot stronger, because it means the other sign
Well,
comes down.
we've changed our concept. We've changed the direction. Remember, the other sign was a taller sign. This is more of that directory style, and that's what she wanted from the beginning. So she's more.
But here's my point. If she were here today, or you were saying she's agreed, she's going to go on this sign, and her other sign is coming down, makes your application a lot more palatable to this board.
Well, seeing
You're
that
saying you
this
think
is
she's
the
gonna
style.
come on,
This
but
is
you
the
don't
well.
know.
This is the style that she initially told me that she would be interested in. The first time I came in November, Dale had a different concept. Now this is more of what she is interested in. Her main concern is cost, and we'll do what we can to make it work for her.
Okay,
if,
but see, what Danny's saying, and what
Right.
maybe you should have done before you come here, is get her to say either yes or no. I can't decide on
Right.
this not knowing whether she's going to have a sign, you're going to have 2, and another tenant's going to come in and have 1. The answer's
I
got to be
understand
no.
that, but well, here's the thing. As the landlord, I mean, I'm trying to be respectful to her
I
needs.
understand what you're doing.
As far as she came before you and put up a sign, initially, I'm here with Dale. We're asking for this particular sign, and if she doesn't like it, there's not a lot we can do. The sign she has now is dated.
It's not whether she likes it, it's whether we like it.
Right, but as the landlord, I can tell her, listen, you're saying it has to go.
Can I make a comment here, Joe?
Well, sure.
I mean, what you're telling us is basically a good argument against doing it piecemeal. When the dentist came in, you asked for a sign then, based on that
Well, she
series
did.
of facts. well, she did,
Right.
without taking into account any other tenants that were coming after.
Right.
Now you're basically doing it, you got a couple more on board, but you're in the same situation. You're putting the cart before the horse. You need to get your ducks in line as to who needs what on the sign for that building.
Right.
And then ask us to approve.
But right now, Dale is the significant tenant, and he's going to take on more space, so.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
If, because one, I know Dr., and she's my dentist. So I know if we add her onto this sign, one, it gives her a bigger sign than she presently has. Because the other sign she has is down to the ground, it's not even, can't even see it. So it's gonna give her a bigger sign, and we'll do it at no cost. Then we're back to basically, then it's just one sign. If we replace that sign, then there's even need for a variance if the sign goes back.
Exactly.
Or is there even, I'm just asking, is there a need to even appear for this before this board
Still needs a variance for
again?
the setback.
For the
Yeah, but
setback.
not the two-sign variance.
Right.
No, if first sign comes down, then,
Well, and that's what I'm
This
saying,
would
it
be the
makes
one.
your argument stronger
What if we-
for this
What if we put
sign.
it in the island
If
over
she agrees to take her current sign down and go on this sign, it makes you have a whole nother issue with the setback as well, and we need to make sure we know exactly where you propose it go, so we know that there's no danger with traffic or sight or anything like that.
Well, if we did that, the sign's gonna go back further down where her sign is, which I know is out of the right of way. Because it
Becomes an island. It becomes like a little.
She's on the island, right?
She's
Right.
really
About the best I could see we could do at this point, given the facts you've given us, is to approve this based on the fact that she takes her sign down before this gets put up, which means you're still not gonna know whether you can do it or not.
Yeah, but Mike, I don't know if we could do that. We should just table it and let him get his ducks in a
No, I'm
row.
not saying we should, I said that's the best we could do,
Yeah,
not what we
which-
should do.
I wouldn't go for it. I mean, the poor woman isn't here. She went through all the trouble of getting her sign. And now, and again, nothing against you, sir. Understand what I'm saying? Now a new tenant
I'm not
comes
taking
in,
the
he wants a bigger sign,
You're
he
not
wants
forcing
two
her to do
signs, and we're gonna
anything, Joe.
punish her.
No, we're not punishing her. We're saying that she has to, if she's not willing to do that, then this application's not approved. Or it's approved, if you make a conditional upon her taking her sign down, and she refuses to do that, then they can't put it up. The condition has to be
Yeah,
met.
I would rather table it for you to get a definitive answer
Yeah.
from her, so that way, we know exactly what's at stake here. Frankly, the sign looks good. Again, assuming there's no safety issues with the placement that you want, we like, as I've said numerous times as of late, we like to consider ourselves a business-friendly board, and we want to be that. But there are rules. The rules say you can only have a certain number of signs, and we need to make sure that before we deviate from those rules, we have a basis to do so. Harold, let me ask you a question about the sign that people have referred to as a directional sign. Could you describe it for me in its location and tell me whether, in your opinion, it is a directional sign?
I consider that to be a directional sign, giving people an idea of the pathway to get to the door to enter into the building
Okay.
for this business.
Having said that, then the existence of that sign is irrelevant for our consideration of this application.
Yeah,
That's fine.
yes.
I'm not questioning it at all, I just want to clarify that. Okay, so now that you only have one sign that we have to consider and then proposed second sign. The directional one, you've won that battle. It's, the man just said it's directional, so good for you.
And, if you go to the dentist, the way you gave us your sign, and DG and M is larger on the top, beautiful. If you gave her the bottom two, and she takes her sign down, this wouldn't be a question really tonight. Like you said, it'd only be a question of making sure it's out of the right of way, and, because we understand your business, and then we're only dealing with one sign, and now we're dealing with location. See what I mean? So it takes 90% of the problems out of this thing.
but Joe,
Her sign and the other, yeah. go ahead.
what if those CPAs decide they want a sign too?
His problem, landlord's problem.
That's right. I mean,
And then the other people you're getting
Welcome to
in
my
there.
world.
Same thing. Same thing. And if I were a prospective tenant, I'd say I want a sign. Well, geez, you got to go to ZBA. Well, they're a bunch of so-and-sos. They're never going to grant you more signs.
Not
Well,
theirs.
then you know what? The rent you charge them goes down because they can't have a sign, or they find another location. That's the world in which you live as a landlord.
Or you put in a large directional sign that can put everybody on it.
Well, maybe.
Anyway,
Okay, so again,
adjourn it.
you know, it appears that
For you.
it's in your best interest to get a definitive answer from her.
Okay.
Okay?
Because we probably will be tabling it.
Do we have any other questions about the proposed sign, just so we know? Okay.
Beautiful.
Anyone in the audience care to speak about this application? Really?
You said plenty.
Yeah, you think so? These guys are out here saying it's a sign. For goodness sakes, I know what you're, I can.
Forgot why we're here.
Okay, all right, thank you very
Thank
much.
you much.
Application number 3, Lawrence and Shirley Dawson, 1434 East Avenue, Rochester, New York, 14610. Request an area variance from Article 3-3-37-A of the code to allow the construction of a detached garage with less setback at 810 Penfield Road. The property is owned by Lawrence and Shirley Dawson and is zoned R-1-20. This is SBL number 123.18-3-15. This is application number 13Z-0001.
Sometimes it's good to go last.
Sometimes it is. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I am indeed Lawrence H. Dawson, also known as Chip. And Shirley and I are in the, hopefully, the final stages of the process of attempting to build a single-family residence at 810 Penfield Road. This will be, by the way, our 7th property in the Rochester area since 1969 when we came here. The 3rd in Penfield, if we're successful with this project. Most of our houses have been the subject of publication in various magazines and newspapers. The last 2 or 3 have been with garden tours, including some from out of the area. This will be the 7th house, not because we flip houses, but because we love the process. At least we've loved the process until now. This has without doubt been the single most difficult thing that I think we have ever tried to do. And the reason is that this site, which was formerly the Nakoma Dairy site owned by the Courts family, and was owned by your previous applicant at one point, was once a ravine that started about the barn and went to the northeast about 100 probably 250 feet to a depth of 60 feet. And what happened is in 1958, and I discovered this, by the way, there was very, very poor disclosure. In fact, there was no disclosure on the part of the seller. There was misinformation. There was a lot of other misinformation floating around about this site. Had I known now what I know now 4 months ago, we probably would have said, gee, let's not do it. But in fact, we didn't know that. We've sold the townhouse we're living in. We're renting it back. We'll be homeless on the 1st of May. We had hoped to start this process in early November. As you can tell, the construction season has kind of passed us by, and we're desperately hoping that we'll be able to get approval soon so that we will have some place to live come the late spring. The site was filled in 1958, starting then. At the same time, Shirley Durham and her husband, who live on Penfield Road and are one of our neighbors, moved into their home. That same day, Mrs. Durham tells me the trucks from the state DOT started down the driveway to dump debris from the old Eastern Expressway construction. And that's what fills this entire area, is debris from a variety of mostly state construction projects. We initially believed that we would be able to excavate and refill with fresh soil, compacted. We then looked at doing it with gravel. That was proving to not be a good option. Because as we dug in the corners of where we currently have the house located, on the eastern side at the front, we were down at least 20 feet and the excavator wasn't hitting bottom. We're down probably a good estimate now about 28 feet in the back corner to reach virgin soil. The result is that now we are completing the engineering on helical pilings. Helical pilings are screwed in to the soil, down to virgin soil to the point where they lock in. It's a very interesting process. We have some of the best engineers in the area on this project, soils engineers, structural engineers, landscape architects, site engineers, architects, you name it. They've all been working on it, trying to figure out how in the world we can put a one-story, single-family house on this parcel. So at the moment, it will be helical pilings, which means that the entire house and all of the foundation will be locked together on top of these pilings, and it'll be a little bit like I look at it as an oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico, although we won't be digging for oil. And to our knowledge, there's nothing else very bad down in there because we did do the test digs. This brings me to why we're putting the house and the garage where it is. We have had to move as far toward Penfield Road to the south as we possibly could, because every foot of depth that we have to go down further with helical pilings costs us at least $1,000. And we simply can't afford. Right now we've got, including the cost of the land, we've got over $100,000 in this project, and we have absolutely nothing to show for it. So we have to try and minimize the rest of our costs. We are using the most efficient, most effective methods of construction that we can. We have a budget for landscaping of about $40,000. We're hoping we'll have money left to be able to spend it on the landscaping, but that is our intent. By putting the garage, and this is the design originally, this is a design we brought to this project, which is why we're using it. It is intended that the home look like a farmhouse that might be sitting out in the prairie somewhere. And because this was originally farm property, we have a detached garage, unlike the typical garages of today, to look like a farm outbuilding that is sitting out there. We'll have landscaping all around through the area. We'll landscape in the back. We're talking right now about potentially an orchard, for example, in the back that we'd be able to look out because most of the windows will be in the rear. We border 7 other parcels. We're everyone's backyard neighbor. Our frontage is 15 feet on Penfield Road. So by putting the house as close to our access point as we can and still leave enough room to be able to put a driveway in and do some landscaping along the edge, that ends up putting the corner of the garage at, I believe it's 38.6 or something feet. We have talked extensively with Peter and Lynn Dowd, who are our immediate backyard neighbors and will be the ones that the garage is directly behind. They're currently screened by a number of mature evergreens. We have discussed with them and with our landscape architect additional screening for them in that area. And I believe you have an email from the Dowds indicating that they are comfortable with our plan. To push back even 10 or 11 feet puts us that much deeper back in. We have a corkscrew willow that is a feature tree there on the east side. We're trying to avoid pushing back into that. So essentially, that's the story. We believe that since there's no good way to site this house, originally we thought, well, great, we'll be way back toward the edge of the ravine and sit back in there. There's no way that would ever happen for a whole variety of reasons. We have gone through the process with the town. I think we're on our 4th site plan right now. Making modifications as we go along based on input from the town and from others to try and get the best possible project that we can. So that's where we are, and that's our need. If we get moved around, it just gets that much more difficult and that much more expensive. And frankly, we're about, honestly, there have been times we've wakened up in the middle of the night and looked at one another and said, what in the world are we doing? But we're convinced if anybody can do it, we can. And that we'll end up with what is a classic suburban infill project. It's part of the new urbanism. You make good use of parcels that have been left over because nobody else wanted them. And we think we can do a fabulous job, and we think we can make everybody pleased. We're as interested in, certainly in landscaping as our neighbors are. We like to look at beautiful things, and we know we want to make it so our neighbors look at beautiful things. So I guess I'm open to questions at this point.
You certainly made a compelling argument why the house can't be moved further north. But really, the house is not the problem with the setback. Why can't the garage be moved? Is that on pilings as well?
Well, the difficulty is with the garage out there. The design of the house is that the front porch, which is a 7-foot overhang all the way across, that will run right into the side of the garage. So that we have shelter, we have cover. It's not like you get out and walk a distance away to the garage. And the only way to do it would be to push that garage back. And we do have windows along the end of the house. That means you push the garage back into the windows and you push it back toward the corkscrew willow. So that in terms of doing the landscaping, having the space, having the views, that it works best for us that way.
I assume that you must have tried to see what would happen.
We did cutouts, and we moved the cutouts all around. We worked with the engineers and the designers, and pushed things all around. And finally, it was really the soils condition that pushed us as far south as we could. And even with that garage now, we excavated under the garage, and we're down 10 feet on the south corner of the garage. So if we push that back, we go down further as well. And we really want to try and keep as close as we can to virgin soil. That's where on the west side, that is very close to virgin soil, where we've got it sited now. We get 3 feet on the front and 7 feet on the back down to virgin soil. So moving in from that drops the elevation of or the depth of the fill that much.
Okay, you went into this in a little bit of detail, but can you give me a little more on whether you think an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood as a result of this variance?
Well, I would certainly think not. Frankly, I haven't talked to everybody in the neighborhood, but I've talked to a lot of the people in the neighborhood. The previous application that came in, I think in 2007, was to put a house right immediately behind the DeLaus. By having it face west, the side setback was right against the DeLaus. And what several of the neighbors have told me is that they've really been concerned. One proposal to subdivide into 4 lots, which obviously didn't go. Other fits and starts to create something. And frankly, if you assume that any vacant land is better than a structure, then I can't argue that. But if in fact someone is going to put a parcel on there, we believe that the design that we've got and the work we're putting into it, the landscaping that we'll do, the architecture, the care that we take in building our properties or renovating our properties is such that every time we get finished, our neighbors all stand back and say, wow, look at what they did. And that's our intent to do that this time, too. There's never a guarantee, and we do know that there are always neighbors who will never say, wow, look what they did, because that's the nature of it. Back in the mid-'70s, 30 years ago, I chaired the planning board right here for 5 years, and I heard many a neighbor say, leave it alone, get them out of here, we don't want to have it. You know, since land is valuable, and the closer to the city it is, the more valuable it is, I think if anybody's going to do it, we'll do it.
Let me help you out a little bit, too,
Yep.
here. What you're actually asking for, the variance you're asking for, is from what turns out to be a front setback,
That's right.
which is actually larger than a side setback would be.
Exactly.
So if you had the same 38.8 feet and acclimated the house west, it would be in compliance, and you wouldn't need a variance.
That's correct. The problem, however, is by shifting the house west,
No, I understand it. I'm
you're
just
sitting
saying-
way back in the depth of the ravine.
And unlike most front setbacks, which are in relation to a street.
Right.
And it's rather obvious how far that setback is or how close it is to the street, you can't really tell whether, the way I look at it, I don't think you're going to be able to tell where the lot lines are, right?
Well, that's
there?
right. I've staked them so we know, so we stay off the neighbor's property, but yes.
What I'm saying visually, if you had if everybody on a
That's right.
classic rectangular lot was
Right.
50 feet from the road and you were 38.8, visually that would be a lot more
Oh, yeah.
obvious than if
Right.
you're in, you know, you're
Right.
on fronting on people's backyards.
Exactly.
basically.
Exactly. And, you know, I think the thing that we were most concerned about is because the Dowds had raised the concerns last time, because essentially the house was put, you know, right in their immediate backyard, that we wanted to be sure they were comfortable with it. And that's why we spent the time to talk to them and work with them on it and make them comfortable.
Okay. And I guess you've already answered the question of whether this was self-created, although you bought the property, but you thought you were going to be able to do it in compliance.
I'm going to point my finger to the state of New York and say that the state of New York created the problem.
Okay. Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Anyone else?
No, just a comment. I mean, I think you've made my evening tonight. As the last person to come up here, you were concise, you understood what you wanted, you explained why you needed it, and that's all we ask for on this board. So thank you. You made my evening.
And I just have one question. How large is the entire property?
How large is it?
Yeah.
Property's 2.4 acres, and I haven't measured it exactly, but I would say under an acre is level. The rest of it extends back north into the Ellison Park area.
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience care to speak about this?
Good evening. My name is Doug Hahn, and I live at 900 Penfield Road, one of the adjacent properties to Mr. Dawson's. And I have not yet met Mr. Dawson, so that's one of the reasons I came tonight. And in fact, probably a little bit late to the party after hearing all the planning and work that's gone into this. And I was prepared to be opposed to this project, but after listening to his eloquent presentation, I guess we're going to welcome him to the neighborhood. I do have a concern, though, that the property is moving, towards my property. And we do have some slight issues with our backyard. We have a pool back there, and this property will be directly in line with our property. So if there's any kind of vegetation or, site issues that can be handled, I would appreciate the board's undertaking along those
Can you
lines.
show us where your property is on this?
Yep.
On this map?
Looks like there's two within-ground pools.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. This is Penfield Road. This is the property.
Right here.
Oh, okay.
So my backyard is very grand, it's all the way back here. It's all property. I assume this is.
That's here.
Yeah, okay.
So it's right.
Yeah, well, this might be, this is the Downs, I guess I'm over.
Yeah.
I'm one foot, this is the Downs and the Jones and then my house is here, but my yard goes back and adjoins that property back in here.
All right. Your house is where? Up here. Okay.
And how
So
large
you
is
have
your
a view.
property?
Not quite 6 acres.
Over here. Thank you.
Mostly ravine.
Mostly ravine. Which brings me to another issue that I'd like to present to the board. And it's not necessarily, I don't think it has anything to do with the setback. In fact, I know it doesn't. But since the property's been cleared, there are some big limbs and trees that have been down, I don't know if they've intentionally or unintentionally, but they're down in that ravine. And I'm not sure even if they're on my property or not, but there are some pretty good sized tree trunks and limbs that came down. That were cut down. There's a tree that was cut down, and I don't know if the tree trimming company did or not, but I'd like to see the board do something to get those trees removed from that property.
Do you know who
if at all
put them
possible.
there?
I don't. They just showed up about month or two ago when the tree was cut down this fall.
The arborist who took the trees down, they chewed most of the stuff up and left it for us to use for landscaping. There were large sections that they couldn't load in the truck, and because there was other material down in the ravine, vegetative material, I think they just rolled it over the edge to join the other stuff.
But it's, it's a safety issue, and there's some, other junk down there that should be cleaned up as well. And again, I don't even know where the property line is along that trail. There's a trail from my house that goes back, a walking trail, that we can all go all the way back to Ellison Park that we don't use frequently, but from time to time we'll go back there. And I noticed it last time I was back in there, there were some pretty good-sized tree trunks that were left down there.
Well, Harold, can you...
Along with some other debris that's been there for years.
Whoever appropriate the town is made aware of that and see if... Certainly if there's a safety issue.
Right.
But visually, this isn't going to make, is this going to make a difference, this 11.2 feet?
The 11.2 feet, no. The property in general will have some, a house there that wasn't there when we moved in 17 years ago. And as Mr. Dawson said, there, it's a,
It is a building.
It is a building, yeah, right.
So, okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And he did say he was going to spend $40,000 on landscaping, so he probably could buffer if you had a problem.
I hope so.
Anyone else? Come on up.
Good evening. I'm Scott DeHollander. This is my son, Elliot. We live at 796 Penfield Road, which is immediately adjacent to the Dawson 810 property. I have just a few comments. There's no doubt that this is a difficult site, but the Dawsons have chosen to locate their home at this location, which requires the front setback variance to utilize a special screw pile foundation technique, as he explained. This non-conventional foundation support requires the shallower fills that closely align and adjoin our common property line, which is the western property line. In an effort to use the shallower filled soils to accommodate the house construction in this location, the Dawsons have already removed 3 mature 15-foot evergreen trees that were transient over our property line. These trees were a significant buffer between our home and the highly charged activities along Penfield Road. Their removal has proven to be a significant change to the setting of our very private lot. Therefore, we are requesting that an equivalent landscape buffer be replaced as part of the construction project and as a condition of the front setback variance. This request is consistent with previous recommendations for development at this location made by the Conservation Board and by town staff, which conditioned their previous approvals, on making enhancements to the buffer which previously existed, but which has now been removed. Additionally, there are 3 large cottonwood trees located on our adjoining property, which we enjoy and which enhance the private setting of our home. The town of Penfield staff reports that a landscape consultant for the Dawsons has indicated that these trees are distressed and has recommended removal. The location of the home and the associated infrastructure, its sewer lateral, its underground telephone, and its underground electric, will further distress these trees as fill is placed around them and the utilities are ripped through their root structure. We are agreeable to the trees' removal and replacement if it simplifies construction for the Dawsons' home. However, we believe that this cost of removal and replacement should be borne by the development, since it's the development that's benefited. I'd point out that a 25-foot buffer is protecting a tree proposed to remain on the Dawsons' lot, but no such protection is provided for these 3 trees where excavation is planned immediately adjacent to them. Finally, we've heard that the demolition of the barn is contemplated as part of this proposal. I believe that removal of the barn will significantly change the quiet, natural setting of the 4 neighboring homes. We would request that a condition of the variance issued for the home's construction address the removal of the barn. Specifically, we request that the ZBA make a landscaping buffer requirement of any demolition permit for the existing barn.
Can you show us where your property is again on the map and where the trees you're talking about are?
I'd be interested if Elliot could show. Yes, certainly.
Well, whatever. I mean,
We're,
can everybody see?
Once you want a pen to write on it?
this is our home right here. And this is the proposed,
All right, and
the trees that were removed for right in this location.
On his property?
cottonwood trees are what?
The cottonwood trees are right here, and you can see there's several utilities that are proposed to go in the same proximity.
And the barn is over here?
That's right, this is the barn that,
So that doesn't affect you visually? You're talking about property?
Just trees, right?
our impacts are, here's Penfield Road.
Yeah.
The trees that were removed in this location and the cottonwood trees buffer
Right.
our view and impact from Penfield Road. If you have the occasion to drive back into our cluster of homes, you'll notice it's very private and quiet, largely because the barn exists and it mitigates the noise and impacts of Penfield Road.
So this is not a visual thing, it's more a noise
I would
buffering?
say it is noise buffering. It is also a visual impact. I believe there in the past has been a rental house here, and there is currently a rental house immediately in front of the barn as well.
All these trees that you were referring to are on his property?
They were very close to the property line. There's no doubt that the trunks of the trees were on his property, but they were 15 feet wide, and they were transient over the property line. They provided a nice natural buffer. It was almost impossible to walk between the three trees over an area of 30 feet. We lost a good deal of baseballs practicing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you want to address the issues he's raised?
You gonna make it there, bud?
Huh?
You gonna make it?
Yeah, no,
Let me start with the barn, and we'll move north. The barn, as near as we can tell, was probably constructed sometime around 1920 or so, in the 20s, maybe the 30s. It's stick frame construction, not timber frame. We have been in conversation with Pioneer Millworks in Farmington. They're a national wood reclamation organization that takes down barns, and they will be examining our barn for removal. The barn is in sad shape. It has not been cared for. I have been cleaning out the interior. I've filled 2 20-yard dumpsters with debris from that barn, including, I would estimate, about 500 pounds of animal manure. And I don't mean cows. This was not used as a dairy barn for a long time. This was raccoon or possum or something that was all over the place. Our estimate is it would have to be completely re-roofed. There is enough damage in the roof that a new sheathing would have to be put on. It would have to be re-shingled. The sills are rotting because the soffits have rotted out. The gutters have rusted out. The place, I would guess, easily could cost us $50,000. And when we get done, we'd have a barn that is not usable. There is a requirement from the town of Penfield that the barn may be used only for personal storage or as an art studio, because the previous owner of the property was an artist, or was a balloon. He made balloons. That's what he did. The only recourse we see is to take it down. We've met with our landscape architect. We have some plans, very preliminary plans, where we might use the barn site for gardens that might have either a fencing or a vegetative barrier around it. The area adjacent to the barn, which is a parking area now, is being reserved for the fire department as a turnaround space. So that essentially addresses the barn. It is of no value, and frankly, to have to do anything with it at this point would throw us way over the edge. It may, in fact, provide some screening, but I don't know that the town of Penfield will allow us to keep a derelict barn that is eventually going to be a hazard to anybody in the area up and standing to provide screening. Certainly, we will do some modest screening in that area, but Mr. DeHollander owns a fair stretch of property along there, and we certainly would have no objections to him planting a few trees that will grow pretty quickly, because it's quite sunny in that area. The trees that he was talking about, yes, we took them down because it was right tight to where we were going to have to put the house. It was clearly on our property and had been planted by a previous owner on our side of the line a few years back. The cottonwood is a real interesting question. Mr. DeHollander first expressed to me several months ago when I met with him that he hated the cottonwoods and would like them down, and I said, well, we're going to be doing tree work in the immediate area. I'll get an estimate for you. Got him an estimate, and then he decided he didn't want to take it down. Subsequently, we did have a certified New York State arborist take a look at it. There is significant decay in the trunk. You sound the trunk with a hammer, and there are dead spots in it. There are conchs or fungus that are growing in what looks like sawdust at the base of it. And the arborist's opinion is that the tree is a significant hazard. And frankly, I'm a safety engineer. I've been 45 years in the public safety and occupational safety business, and the cottonwoods scare the devil out of me. However, they're not our trees. And as I understand it, if someone has a tree on their property that's a hazard to others, then it's their responsibility to do something about it. So we'll kind of leave it at that. As far as we go further up, I've already said, we've got a $40,000 landscaping budget. We don't particularly want to look at Mr. DeHollander's house, and as a result, we'll probably put some landscaping in. But as to where it goes and how it goes, that decision is best made after we finally get an idea about the house, that we get a house up and going, and when comes spring, we'll want to do as much as we can to be able to provide screening. So there you are.
Okay. Anyone else? Anybody else from the board? Okay, very good. That will conclude the public hearings for tonight. They'll be adjourned. We'll take a brief recess, and we will reconvene in the back of the room. Thank you all very much.